From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi
and Corey Clark.
And you say,
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, good news on the hardwood, great news on the diamond, Tuesdays with Tommy. But first, we are, as always, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. It is Tuesday, Corey. That means the daily lunch special is Taco Tuesday all day. Not even 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's not even a lunch special. It runs all day. Hard or soft shell tacos, $1.99. Coronas, $3. $3 for Coronas. How is he staying in business over there?
Right.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Check out the website, cptallybar.com for more. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. If you are listening to us on YouTube, that would be really cool if you could hit that thumbs up button. Just tap it, click on it. And if you're listening on your Apple iOS device, maybe leave a 5-star rating and a review. I haven't dove in there in a while. A little bit afraid to. But sometimes it's cool. Like you'll hop in there like, oh, they like it. It's awesome. But, yeah, do something nice for me, everybody. I appreciate it. That'd be kind of cool. Corey Clark's here, everybody. You know that already. Kind of chuckled. We like his chuckle. It brightens up our day. How are you, Corey?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. You should always point out that at Corner Pocket they let you bring in your own Mios to squirt in whatever drink you want. So, your own drink. You don't go around other people's tables squirting in your Mios. It might not be appreciated, but if you want to bring in your Mios, they have some on site, but you probably should bring in your own anyway. In
case you know what Mio is, folks, it's like a syrup, like a flavor sweetener adder to your water to give it some taste. Because Corey's been building that body into an absolute shrine and drinking water, but our guy can't just drink water.
Nope.
It's got to have a little flavor in it.
Something for me.
As a kid, I could not eat my dinner unless I had, like, soda, like pop, whatever you want to call it. I had to have cola or something, a Sprite. And, I don't know, like 5-6 years ago, I just drank water with my dinner, and I've just kind of been able to pull it off ever since. It's been cool. It's been pretty cool.
Oh, great, man.
Throughout the day.
Good job.
Yeah.
All right.
So
you had any dinner with any ladies lately?
So I didn't want to talk about this.
Oh, sorry, man. You don't have to, but you probably should.
So I went out Saturday night after the baseball fiasco, or actually, to be honest with you, during the baseball fiasco. So she's from my tribe, believe it or not. She's actually Persian. And it went good. And so the funny part is, so she has, I don't know if you've ever seen the pendant I have on my necklace or whatever. But anyhow, she has a tattoo on her arm.
Well, I thought you were going to say you had half of the pendant and she had the other half.
It's like, we're
and y'all just combined it.
Soulmates.
Yeah.
But no, she had a tattoo on her arm, and she's woman-splaining it to me. Like, I don't know what it is. She's like, do you know what this is? And she's explaining it, and I literally, like, reached down my shirt and grabbed the pendant off my necklace, and I'm like, is this what you're talking about? And then she's like, oh, my gosh. And she thought it was really funny. So
there we go.
Who knows?
What a connection. What a connection, man.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
see how it goes. We'll keep you posted on how I ruin this one, everybody. It'll be exciting.
I can't wait to hear it.
I assure you of it all. All right, let's start off with the great news before we get to the good news. Lonni Alameda, Florida State, agreed to a long-term extension, 8 years in total. It starts on June 1st, goes through summer 2029. Shout out to our own Irish O'Fell, who did all the digging on this. I'm just going to be able to run it in for a touchdown on the 1-yard line and just vulture the touchdown in fantasy football parlance. So this is a really competitive contract, man. She's going to start off making $450,000 a year with several performance bonuses that include $10,000 for winning the ACC regular season, $10,000 for winning the tournament, $20,000 for making a super, $30,000 for hosting, $30,000 for making it to Oklahoma City, and $50,000 for winning it. I think what stood out to me the most, Corey, I mean, actually, let's not get to the contract details quite yet. Just how comforting, exciting is this for Florida State fans to know that probably the best coach on your campus is now locked in and she's happy. She's going nowhere.
Yeah, of course. I think people were very happy about that, especially I think it was last week when the A&M rumors started, and I'm sure she was offered a good deal of money, probably more than what Florida State offered her. But Florida State came back with at least a little bit more competitive offer, longer. What is it over the course of the contract, Aslan? Do we have the full value of it?
I do not have that, but I can try to do that.
I mean, you said it goes to 2029?
Yes.
So another 8 years, probably around. I would think when you throw in all the incentives, you're probably talking about, I don't know, man, $5-6 million total. Man, that's awesome to coach softball. You know what I mean? That's really fun. And so I would think that would be very that's very enticing for Lonni. She gets to stay in Tallahassee for the foreseeable future, and she is appreciated here, which I think she knew that anyway, but this kind of stuff makes it even more so. She'd raised all that money to get a new video board and to help out with some of the stuff around the stadium, and now she gets to be here. Maybe you hope for the end of her career. Now, this isn't locked and loaded. Like, this is we all know how coaches' contracts works. Georgia might come back next year and offer $6 million a year. She's probably not going to be the coach of Florida State anymore if that happens. But in the meantime, Florida State showed how much she is valued, in my opinion.
4.8. There you go. Sorry, Corey. 4.8 million total.
So when you think about also the incentives you were just talking about,
right.
like you're probably talking over the course of the contract over $5 million or right at $5 million, which wouldn't we all love that, folks? To be guaranteed $5 million total over the next 7-8 years of our lives will be a really fun life. So, yeah, man, I just think especially on the heels of Krikorian, it was just something that had to get done. And I can promise he offered, when he heard the rumors or heard the facts about A&M, was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I can't do this. There is not a lot to love right now about this Florida State athletic department. We can't lose the one person that everybody loves after what happened with soccer. So, yeah, man, that's good for everyone, and it's good. It's obviously good for the players. It's good for Lonni, and it's good for us that like and enjoy this softball team and this softball program.
Yeah. I think a really cool thing in this contract, too, again, shout out to Ira Schofeld, managing editor of warchant.com, for digging in and getting all this, is that there's several sort of parts of this contract where, they say in good faith they expect to complete all these projects. But all these projects, the date on them is August 2022. It's March 2023. I mean, these are projects. It's new softball field scoreboard. It's covering the bullpen and giving premium seating. It's center field video to help out with scouting and things like that. New playing surface by August 2022. Like, all these things that you probably want on your wish list are all going to be done for her, and pretty darn soon. I think that's super cool. But I think for me, I don't know if I don't want to speak for Lonni. I'm sure she's probably tweeting about it. But I really like the fact that she's getting additional funding for assistant coaches, a new staff position as well that will be devoted to player development, and funding for GAs and managers. Now, listen, they were the number 2 overall seed in the nation. Without any of this stuff, I don't think they lost at Mississippi State because they didn't have any of this stuff. But to be able to have this around you is going to be able to keep you fresh, happy, locked in, engaged. And then also keep her assistant coaches around, too, because, the whole loyal thing, the tweet from her assistant coach, obviously they love, working for her, and now she knows that she can take care of them, and they're all taken care of. So this has to take just so much, any sort of anxiety off of her shoulders. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of it is just the appreciation factor. Like, they were the number 2 overall seed without all that stuff. That doesn't mean it's something you should strive to be. Like, just do more with less. Work smarter, not harder. All that nonsense we've been fed for the last 30 years of our lives, if you've been in any corporation at all. No, man, it's at some point, try to get me on par with the people that I'm competing against and you want me to beat. And she probably is never going to make as much money as some softball coaches, but she's getting what she needs, the support she needs to keep this going long term. Because now is when you strike, right? Like, even after the 2018 season, they still had that crappy scoreboard. Nothing changed there. She got a nice raise, but the field looked the exact same. Nothing, as far as I could tell, nothing really seemed to change at all about that softball complex. Well, now there's real change, and I think it's because, again, Alford and the people that matter see the support she gets from the fan base and the community, and they want to keep that going. It is a cool thing to have. It's not anywhere close to as important as football. We all understand that from a financial standpoint. But it is cool to have because, again, like I said, there's not a lot of sports right now to rally behind when you're a Florida State fan. Softball is chief among them. It's number one or 1A, probably one now that Krikorian's gone. So yeah, man, I think that was a smart move, and it was a good day for Florida State fans.
Good move by Michael Alford, too. So maybe his first real sort of test of his, I don't know, not his presidency, but of his tenure as athletic director, locking in Lonnie. Big win. So super stoked for that. Also, on the complete opposite side of the globe, J. Leonard Hamilton just, doubt me, clowns. Watch what I do. Baba Miller from Real Madrid out in Madrid, Spain, everybody, as we all know, who had been in very, very hot commodity in the recruiting world for basketball. Gonzaga making a run at him, ends up committing to Florida State on Monday afternoon. 6'10", wing, handles the ball like a guard, nice touch around the rim. Everybody that knows the stuff about recruiting and evaluating international talent really kind of gushes about this kid, Corey. How big, how crucial was it for Hamilton to get a guy with obviously John Butler going to the draft and a guy that's this skilled? Is this like a big-ticket kind of guy that might be able to really change the complexion and at least the trajectory we would think of this team versus what we did maybe 10 days ago?
I think so. Like, it's impossible to say for sure because he's been overseas, but he's played at he played at what did he play? Real Madrid, right?
Yes,
on their team. But I read a good bit about him, and look, man, the guy for ESPN, Jonathan Givony, is their draft expert. He's their guy. He's been the draft. He used to run his own website. Now he works for ESPN. He's like their draft savant guy that writes about all the international prospects. And he's the one that broke the commitment and wrote this story about this kid. And that kind of tells you where he is in the pantheon of international draft prospects, and he's one of the big ones. I would think this kid's idea is he's going to be a one-and-doner. Hopefully his one goes better than John Butler's one did, if it is true. But he is a guy that is on the radar of NBA scouts already. Like he decided he wanted to go to college, probably to up his stock. But he has a chance because the international community and the National Basketball Association, everybody that matters knew about this kid already. That makes you feel good, right? This isn't a project. Like, we all know Leonard's brought in guys from overseas that it's taken 2 or 3 years to really make an impact, if they made one at all. They're not usually ready-made dudes for this system, and I'm thinking about Ojo, Boris Bojanovsky. You go down the list. Robert Gilchrist, guys that were raw, didn't have, and had a lot of room to grow to become even average college basketball players or contributing college basketball players. This guy isn't that. Sue, what?
Sorry, Chris Kumaji. Shout out.
There you go. Same thing. So this is different. This kid should be starting, I would think, when you read about him. And I know on his team, he played on the U20 Spain national team. He also played on like the B team for this Real Madrid. But remember, he's 17 years old.
18 now.
But it's 17 when he was playing.
Right.
And he's, so you might think, oh, why isn't he on the A team? Well, man, those are grown men, and they're really good players. Those club teams in Europe can have some incredible players. Like Luka, that was the thing that made Luka so crazy, and why we'll always rue the day. The Hawks drafted Luka. Yeah. They did, and then they traded him. But that's what made Luka so incredible was he was winning the MVP of that Euro League as an 18-year-old. Playing against 30-year-olds, like really good 30-year-olds, ex-NBA guys, future NBA guys, and he was dominating as an 18-year-old. Well, this kid obviously isn't that level, so he's but don't think because he was on the B team for some of the season that means he's a B player. That's essentially a pro league that he's playing with against professionals, and he more than held his own. I think he was the second leading scorer. He shot, I think in one half of a season, he shot over 40% from three. He was shooting like 65% at the rim. He's 6'11", like Aslan said, he can handle because he grew. I think he was the story I read said he was 6'2" until he was 14. Yep. I like how it was worded too. Like at 14-year-old, he was just 6'2", and I'm like, man, 6'2" as a 14-year-old is nuts.
I'll take it now, man.
Yeah, that kind of implies that he's going to get taller. They don't just stop usually at 14. So, but now he's 6'11". He's still got those guard skills. And and can shoot. Like, he's a skilled dude from the outside. It can move, and is much bigger, like, physically than who isn't than John Butler. So that it's a really intriguing piece. We don't know for sure. He's never played over here. It's going to be an adjustment, even though he's played at a pretty high level over in Europe. It'll be an adjustment from that to ACC basketball and Leonard Hamilton basketball. But man, yeah, that's to me, the way people write about him and talk about him, it's like getting a 5-star kid. Not one that you think is going to be averaging 20 and 10, but a 5-star kid that can impact the game in multiple ways and should be, if he's not starting, should certainly be in the rotation. And now you feel pretty good, man. You've got this kid. He's a wild card, but he could be really good. Then you've got you got Cam Fletcher coming back. You got Caleb Mills coming back. You got Matthew Cleveland coming back. Now all of a sudden you got
Jalen Worley.
Yeah, you've got some real talent. Naheem McLeod is back, plus all these freshmen that are coming in. You've got a chance to have – now it's going to be a lot of moving parts, and it's going to be a lot of trial and error there at the beginning because there's a lot of new faces and a lot of guys that haven't played together. But you kind of like the core of what you have talent-wise, and that's exciting because, like I said, I felt like it was a lot of big swings and misses in this last recruiting cycle. And then this kid happens, and that he's, I think now he's, at least for this year, he's like the star of your signing class. He's the big name coming in.
It felt a little bit precarious. It felt like maybe this run that Leonard had put this program on was probably wrapping up. It felt like that to me, at least. This does change my opinion, obviously, of what this season can possibly be. And then you rattling off all the. I mean, I forgot about Cameron Fletcher.
Yeah, man.
Caleb Mills, I kind of probably took for granted coming back. Didn't know if he'd stick around or maybe try to go somewhere else. Jalen Worley, I know, is a guy that you and I are quite high on. Naheem McLeod looked quite developed, at least physically, man, for sure, and was coming along nicely until he got injured. So. They do have these pieces, and, I guess this just goes to show just really how, I don't know, talented's not the right word, but just how savvy Leonard is, right? To be able to be at this point in the game, it's June, you'll lose a guy like John Butler, not an easy guy to replace. Gonzaga's going after this guy, and I know Drew Timme pulled his name out of the draft, which might have been the kind of a white flag waving for Gonzaga of getting that kid. But, yeah, man, just to not stand pat at his age, be savvy, find a guy on the other side of the planet that everybody seems to have high hopes on. Just really just goes to show Florida State fans just how good we're in good hands with Leonard as long as he wants to stick around.
Well, and look, man, this might be the tact he takes for the immediate future. And look, man, he's probably not going to be coaching another 5 or 6 years, but this might be how he ends his career is at the international level because I just don't think Florida State will be able to compete for the top 25 kids in the country as long as NIL is a thing. I don't think it's a coincidence that all of a sudden the faucet got turned off to 5-star recruits, guys you were getting, guys like Patrick Williams, Scotty Barnes, people like that, MJ Walkers. All of a sudden that faucet turned off the minute that NIL became a thing. So he just doesn't have the same tools to work with that, John Shire does at Duke or Calipari does, or even the guy at Florida. Probably. So this might be the route. Those kids overseas, they don't even know what NIL is. They don't even know what it is. They have no idea that they're you know what I mean? Like, so don't even tell them. They don't even need to know. So tell them it's just for American-born players. They don't get a piece of that until they play a year over here. But I think that's the tack you're going to take because I don't think those kids are going to be savvy enough, and also they don't have the marketability or the name recognition to get big NIL deals.
Well, the thing is they can't because these international players come to America on student visas.
That's right. Yeah,
I'm not trying to sound like I'm all that smart, but the visas prohibit students from working off campus. So that would be going and doing an autograph signing or being a
Good
pitchman.
work.
So. This is Leonard being like, gosh, I finally figured this out. I got this thing rolling, and then you drop this legislation on us.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right, what's that? Oh, there's a loophole. Oh, all right, I'm going to go get these European kids that are quite developed, play a little bit of different style of game, but I trust him and Stan and RJ Barsh to figure it out and get these kids up to speed. But, yeah, I like that. It's a good point, Corey, for sure. This has to be the way he moves forward because, yeah, to your point, like Florida State, we're not beating Kansas in North Carolina. We don't have the people here at Tallahassee that care about their sports at the most fanatical level are probably not going to donate money to the basketball player.
Correct. For the most part. And look, Florida State has a good fan base, and they have a really good – the students are great. It's not the money. Kansas funnels all their money to one sport, obviously, and so does Kentucky.
It's documented, everybody. It's documented.
Yes,
so in case
it absolutely is. Yeah, it absolutely is. So Florida State, that's a bit of a challenge. So yeah, man, international route seems like the way to go. You know, there's some risk in that because you never know if the kid will ever how he adjusts to this style of basketball or just to college or being in the States. That's a big transition. But yeah, man, it's a huge day. It was a great get for Leonard. Put a bow on a recruiting class and turned it from an average one to a better than average one. And then now we'll see how good these guys are. But yeah, that's really exciting. And I wonder if he's going to be, because after we're done recording this, I got to go pick up Brady from the Leonard Hamilton camp. I'm going to look around and see if that kid's out there. Maybe he's already a camp. Maybe he's already a counselor. Maybe he's already getting paid to run the camp. So I'll look for him when I get out there.
Who's been Brady's counselor so far? Who's he had?
He didn't know the guy's name. He didn't think it was an actual player. But I will get confirmation on
What's up with that?
You know what I did hear though, and I don't think Brady would be wrong. In fact, I know he wouldn't. Ray Allen was at the camp on Sunday night.
What? Jesus Shuttlesworth?
The Ray Allen, yeah. I guess he's got a kid or two kids that are competing in it.
Okay.
And Brady actually crossed over his kid 3 times. No, I'm just kidding. That did not happen. Are you crazy? But yeah, no. So that was exciting when I heard that Ray Allen was there. I went looking for him when I got there, but I couldn't find him.
Tuesdays with Tommy coming up right after this. It's Tuesdays with Tom. That means Tom Lang, director of original content for warchant.com, executive producer of the Jeff Cameron Show, joining us here on Wake Up Warchant. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing well, fellas. Spent a little time in the central time zone, but happy to be back on the East Coast. How's it going?
Good. Crucial matchup for the Lightning coming up later today on Tuesday, I would assume, because I don't have the schedule in front of me, Tom, but the NHL just basically goes every other day. They don't just take 3 days off in the middle of their series like the NBA. So right?
That's correct. They do things logically, so it'll be about 8:10 or 8:15. The one thing that they exaggerate is that if they say something starting at 8, it'll take about 15 more minutes. Other than that, though, this house is ready to go.
So you and your wife, Jamie, were in Auburn for the baseball game on Sunday while the hockey game was going on, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How did that work?
It was a difficult time, Corey. I had more resources at my disposal, so I was able to see every moment. And I would say the text chain to Jamie was 50 to 75 texts long in terms of power plays and goals and chances. So it was a unique experience. And I told her if she wants to stay in Auburn, I like the mojo of what happened when we were in Auburn. So she said,
yeah, fair.
She said no, though.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, some real good news happened on Monday that we're talking about on the show today. I mean, I think the best of it, obviously, was in my opinion, was Lonni Alameda agreeing to a long-term extension with Florida State. What do you make of some of the figures that Ira was able to pull up, some of the sort of, concessions, if you will, in terms of facilities and assistance they were giving to her, and just how big of a sort of boon is this for Florida State athletics to keep Lonni here and happy?
Yeah, I think it's a projection of strength from the athletic department, something that the athletic department has not been able to do a whole lot in the last, I don't know, pick your time period, 5 years, 10 years. This was a good moment. They decided to, circle back and say that this is a sport that matters to Florida State. They wanted to prove it, put their money where their mouth was. And that's not to say that they didn't try to do that with Mark Krikorian in soccer. The money they were offering him was robust as well. But for an athletic department that is maligned, and an athletic situation that is maligned for not having a ton of money in Tallahassee, this is a good sign for FSU. And as somebody who really cares about the softball program, I can tell you I was happy to see that this was not a situation where the SEC is just going to poach every single coach that they want to, not just from FSU, but from non-SEC conferences. So it was a good day for FSU. And again, it's a promotion of the strength of the athletic department. It's not just about going all in on football, but they have resources to spend elsewhere. So good day for FSU.
Speaking from positions of power, what about Leonard Hamilton? What was he able to kind of demonstrate, flex, reassert himself, maybe not on a national scale, but maybe just here in Tallahassee in terms of what we feel he still's got left in the tank and what he can do here at Florida State by securing the commitment from Real Madrid standout Baba Miller? What was your takeaway from that one, Tom?
Well, I think Drew Timme staying in Gonzaga helped the situation. That's probably true, but it doesn't matter. If you have a Gonzaga-Florida State recruiting battle and Florida State comes out on top, that's important. When you have a couple of your key assistants over the last couple of years now running the show at Missouri, it's a logical question to ask as Leonard Hamilton's entering his mid-70s. Is this something that can be sustainable? Can Florida State still poach recruits that are wanted by top-tier programs in other parts of the country? So the answer is obviously yes. This is a player who appears to be more versatile than John Butler. I don't know he's as gifted at perimeter shooting. Not many are at that age that John Butler showed last year. But you're starting to see a roster building now for next season that has a little bit more versatility and, dare I say, a little bit more sandpaper. That's the number one thing I talk about, whether it's on the JCS or wherever I'm talking on the Warchant Multimedia Network is. Last year's group wasn't physically tough enough and wasn't mentally tough enough. That's not what this culture is supposed to be about. I think they're taking steps in the right direction. And it's good to see that a guy like Baba Miller has experience playing with the senior group at the under-18 league and also with the national team for Spain. That should bode well a little bit better for him to adjust to the college basketball world. I know he's coming here to refine his game, but he should have a little bit more toughness than, some player who was coming straight out of high school in the States. I think that bodes well for FSU.
Do you guys have any idea for like a good nickname for a kid named Baba? You got anything on the? I was thinking like baby wants his Baba, but that seems like negative inference. Like it's got to be something we can do with Baba.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out. I got time, but I didn't know if you guys had anything off the cuff.
First thing, black sheep. Have you any wool? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 3-pointer, Baba Miller.
Baba Black Sheep. Yeah, that's something.
I think Baby Wants His Baba will now be used, thanks to you, Corey, by opponents behind the basket in the second half. If he's trying to make a couple of key free throws, you might see a giant bottle or rattle shaking behind.
Yeah, Baby needs his Baba.
Yeah.
But there's something there. Baba Black Sheep's not bad. We can figure something out though. But that's such a unique name. I'm going to go ahead and guess he's the first student athlete in Florida State history named Baba. Nothing's coming to mind, right? All right.
His full name's something else. I don't have it in front of me, but I think I can pronounce it, but I just don't have it in front of me. It's a long one. It's like 4 in there. So we'll go with Baba.
All right.
I mean, maybe it's a dated reference, but it's one I hear every day. Maybe you can just hit a couple of notes from the piano and Baba O'Reilly.
Baba O'Reilly, yeah. The great Who song. The people that don't know, it's you might think it's called Teenage Wasteland, but it's called Baba O'Reilly, and it's a great, Jeff Cameron's played it for near 2 decades now.
What if you hit the piano just one note or two when he hits a 3-pointer in the building? That would be kind of cool.
Boom, 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 like that. Yeah, absolutely. Come on, gang. Why are we thinking of this stuff? All FSU's doing is throwing up bigger pictures of baseball players to take up their whole video board and not thinking about the things that matter, like a little Bob O'Reilly for this kid when he hits a 3 or a dunk anytime he scores.
Full name, Papa Abubakar Bartolome Miller. So we'll deal with Baba. So piece of cake.
All right.
We're going to leave something new, Tom. We're going to call it Tiebreakers with Tom. We got 2 guys on the show on the daily basis, and we were arguing with our own Irish show fell about Mike Martin Jr., the baseball team and such. And one person on the show said that, in terms of being in year 3, 2.5, whatever you want to consider 2020, but, 3 full seasons now with Mike Martin Jr., there can't be any other coach in the nation, maybe in any other sport, that has more of their fingerprints, their philosophy, their culture, if you will, ingrained in their team than Mike Martin Jr. has, just because of how long he's been here. And the counter to that was, well, let's keep in mind that he hasn't been the head coach here for 23 years. It's only been 3 years. So do we maybe read too much into him having too much of an advantage as a head coach in waiting from his assistant sort of stint or whatever? Where do you stand in terms of those 2 counter or conflicting arguments?
That's a tough question. I'd say when he first took the job, I thought it was going to be more of an advantage that would show early. Certainly, he was good friends with Jimbo back in the day here, whether Jimbo was the HCIW or the head coach. Mike Martin Jr. and Jimbo, you'd see Jimbo in the dugout at times. I thought that maybe it would play out kind of like Jimbo's transition did, which was an absolute advantage, that he could be the head coach in waiting and get on the recruiting trail and be able to, espouse what his vision is going to be personally, face to face, without the rules and restrictions of being a head coach. I'd say that right now, the one constant that has bled over from the latter days of Mike Martin Sr., 11, to Mike Martin Jr. is they don't run the bases well. They don't play really well on defense either. So if that's the identity that we're talking about, then that's something I've seen carry over. They've got to get a lot better. I know.
He kept that culture going.
He did. Well, I mean, and Corey, you know it. We've been lamenting it. Aslan, you know it. We've been lamenting it for how long? 5-6 years now? Like basic stuff, like base running and fielding the baseball. I saw a group that didn't play loose this year, especially as the year wore on, and it was the same. I stayed for every pitch on Saturday on the 21-7 beatdown. The body language, of course, is going to look tough when you're getting your head kicked in like that. But still, outside of Parker Messick and then the heart that Scalaro showed in Florida State's final game of the season, I don't know that you have a bunch of players on that roster as currently comprised, the guys that are coming back for next year, that play as an extension of Meat's brash and I know we use the term a lot, but red ass type self. I don't see that extension of himself out on the field. I see some guys that are wound pretty tight. So I know that's a long-winded way of answering the question. I hope we have a better idea of what Mike Martin Jr. baseball is all about in a good way by the end of next season, but there's just so many things that are fundamentally flawed right now that I don't know that only talent is the reason that Florida State is being held back.
Corey, I don't want to jump here, but just real quick. I mean, so what's going to change then, Tom? I mean, he has been here for 23 years. If, Jordan Carrion had a lot of errors, Corey pointed out the other day. Alex Terrell struck out way more than he did in his time in Miami. So he can go and get all these great guys. He can go get Tommy White from North Carolina State and whoever else jumps in the portal. But, what are we hanging on to that we think that they're going to be able to plug and play and he's going to be able to get them even better than they were when most of these guys that transferred in, outside of, I guess, maybe Brett Roberts, sort of kind of regressed?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. I think what you're hoping for is maybe a change in the way the message is delivered. And that's a very fundamental thing that you're looking to change. It's not just a simple tweak where it's like, oh, you know what? The pitching coach isn't working, so just make a switch over there. I don't think it's as simple as making one assistant coach change. I think that the way things are communicated and disseminated is clearly not working, because when you've got several years going on, more than 5, of basic stuff going wrong, it has to be the messenger, not the message at some point. And I know that that's a tough way to look at it, but I don't have something that makes more sense than saying that here's a guy who knows a ton about baseball, but clearly whatever way he's communicating is not sinking into the players he's responsible for. So to answer your question, what are we hoping for? I'm not going to say a miracle. I'm just going to say maybe a tiger changing his stripes a little bit.
Yeah, and maybe getting players that respond more favorably to him.
Yep.
Jimbo says that he changed his stripes after EJ left and the way he coached quarterbacks. I don't think he did.
No,
I think he just got a kid that could handle it and was better than anything he'd ever coached, and just handled it better and didn't take it personally. And maybe that's the response. Or Meat will be out of a job in 2024 or 2025 if it keeps going like this. I don't know that you have much of a choice, but I also think after 2 years, and really it's only been the 2 full years of data, it's just not enough to say definitively this can't work. It's not going to work.
But Corey, it looks just like it was the last few years of his father. I mean, can you really argue against that, though? I mean,
no, but that doesn't mean that it can't flip. It just can't. Like Jimbo's second year sucked, man. I mean, they weren't good for a while, and then all of a sudden, everything flipped. So we can use Jimbo for that route too. Like obviously they were better than they were under Bowden, but midway through that second year in 2011, man, he was under 500 against Division I teams. And he had that runway where he got to be the head coach in waiting. So it's just, to me, a little too early. And I would say that about anything almost. It's a little too early after 2 years. And some success, not a lot, not Florida State standards, to just say this can't work. But I do think he's coaching for his future this year. He's got to figure out a way to get it to, like Tom said, to communicate the message better, figure out a better way to deliver it, or get players that can handle it, because clearly there's something not working. And going back to Tibbs missing a hit and run sign on Sunday and getting screamed at while they reviewed a play, Logan Lacey not run into first, Crowell not covering first, Logan Lacey on Friday making a terrible error for no real reason. He could have rolled that ball to first, and instead he guns it out of the stadium. All these things that just smart baseball teams don't do. They do dumb stuff all the time. And Mike Martin Jr. is not a dumb person. So what's getting lost? Do the players just not care enough? Do they not care enough about the program to really commit to knowing what the hit and run sign is? To know that, hey, maybe I shouldn't tag up from second on a pop up to the second baseman. That's what's so confounding, because it matters to Meat, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to get through. And at the end of the day, that's the responsibility of the coach. So this year, man, coming up, if we see the same stuff, then yeah, I think you could say 3 years of real data, 4 years on the job, and the defense is still trash. The base running is still comical. That's when I think you have you can say, look, man, what promise is there? What hope is there that this is going to change, because it's been too long now?
Yeah, I'd say, Corey, when you were listing off all of the examples of things that went wrong that leave you scratching your head, I think you know it too. And Aslan, you were there in Auburn. That's probably the Cliff's Notes version, because even you think about Tuesday, all the errors, you got an outfielder overrunning a ball that's, on the ground, on the grass. It didn't take a bad hop, and it goes to the fence. You've got Terrell getting caught in a rundown between second and third on ball 4. All of these things. And that's just one weekend. We could go back into the season and probably list another 50 to 70, and I'm not exaggerating, 50 to 70 moments where you're going, you've just extended the game for your opponent by an out or two, and you just shortened the game by an out or two for your own offense. It's just, when you add all those things together, right now, at least from where I'm sitting, and I'm gathering where you guys sit on this argument, I don't think you can get rid of Meat at this point, but I also would be more surprised than not if things change fundamentally next year. I don't like where this thing's going, but I've seen, coaches and teams flip it in 1 year before. It's just, they're going to need something that would be an underdog outcome to happen next year in order for us to be in a much better position 12 months from now talking about where this baseball team is.
Yeah, I've been a little more critical, but I'm not advocating for him to get fired now. I think he should be able to finish out his contract. I just really wonder how it's going to work out. Does he go into the season in his final year as a lame duck kind of guy? I don't know how you could give him an extension at this point. But just the last thing, Tom, I'll go to you, and then Corey can obviously chime in here as well. But listen, I wanted Doug Minkiewicz. Doug Minkiewicz is currently an assistant coach at a high school outside of Key West right now. So I don't know what I was doing either in terms of who I wanted the coach to be. But I grew to really appreciate and respect just how smart and just how much baseball really truly is lived and breathed and in the veins of Mike Martin Jr. I don't want to compare him to Jimbo in terms of like a guy that maybe, kind of had to reassess things going to 13 and had all these new coaches come in. Because I agree with Corey. He really didn't change his stripes. He just found a guy that could, figure out the way he wanted things to operate. But is Meat like his own worst enemy? Because he does know so much, and he does want to have his finger on every aspect of this program other than pitching. Like, he will say all the, Bellinger calls all the pitches. I don't control that kind of stuff. But are we maybe at a point where like Meat just is trying so hard? Like, he maybe is just micromanaging. I don't want to use that word, but could it be he's his own worst enemy at this point because he just wants to get this thing fixed so badly?
Yeah, I'd say, and Corey, I don't know how you feel about this, but my concern is sometimes it seems like the pulse of the team, he may not have it. The preseason interview he did on the JCS, he was talking about how he faced resistance with a lot of the players in the lineup about an approach to hitting. And he almost made it sound like it was akin to breaking them in a boot camp, because once they relented and saw how using this approach that he wanted them to use could benefit them, they're off and running. And so this season's going to go a different way. And it really, outside of maybe the first couple of weeks of the season, didn't look like that. Early on in the year, you could see a timid approach at the plate, an in-between approach at the plate. And then I go to the Sunday of the Miami weekend in which he says, I think we've done enough, and we're on a path now in which we're not done playing in front of these fans here in Tallahassee. And I get that the next two games were walk-offs, but the response to those two walk-off defeats were getting absolutely trounced by North Carolina. So my concern is maybe less about who is his own worst enemy, and you got to be connected to the heartbeat of that clubhouse and have an understanding, whether it's a shortcoming or not, because some years aren't going to be great. Just kind of know what you're dealing with. And I know that that's a fine line, because sometimes coaches want to protect things when they speak publicly to the media. So there's a potential out there. But when you're talking about having a complete understanding of what puts you in the best position to win and where your clubhouse is mentally and emotionally, I don't know that he had it. And Corey, you might have a different opinion because certainly you were on the ground for more of these press conferences in the tradition room than I was.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I actually chuckled a little bit. I watched the video, the press conference after the Auburn game, and he talked about how they're resilient. They've shown resiliency all year. They're tough. They've got great leaders, and I'm like, man, what are you talking about? Like, I've watched this team. I haven't seen, I know I'm not in the locker room, the clubhouse with them, but I haven't seen the leader. You see great leadership after you get walked off twice, and then you come back and no, you're draftable pitcher goes out and gets you 3 outs before he has to get pulled. That's the leadership has just, there's been a void there. And so he was talking about Kyle McMullen. Kyle McMullen was the only guy in the press conference with him after that game because he was the only guy that could get anybody out at all in the 21-7. And so he's like, yeah, leaders like this guy. And it's like, man, I think he's putting on a false front. I think he knows that it lacked leadership. And look, man, let's be honest. It wasn't a mentally tough team at all. They were 8-17 away from home. They lost to all kinds of teams: Mercer, Stetsons, Auburn's, name it. North Carolina got swept. BC lost a game up there. They just were terrible away from home. They were great at home and terrible away from it. And they didn't respond well to adversity, in my opinion. They didn't seem to. So that's what's another thing that's concerning is that they didn't show a lot of toughness and a lot of leadership that you'd like out of a baseball team or any team really. And that's not Meat. I mean, Meat's kind of a red ass, man. We know that. And his team doesn't have that in him. And I don't know how he gets a team to do that. I don't know if you recruit guys like that or they get it from their head coach, but certainly this team doesn't play like their head coach played. And I don't know why. It's just not getting it, but it's, again, 3 years, I think, is a perfectly good sample size. 2 years, when you've had some success and it's not been a debacle, is probably not enough time to make a decision. But I agree with you, Tom. It doesn't look like it's trending great right now. It doesn't look like it. It isn't. They're the same exact program they were in 2019. The same exact one, with the same problems. That they have a few more power arms. That's it. The psychologist he brought in that he said was going to help, the going to the other dugout, the taking the names off the jerseys, all the things he wanted to put his fingerprint on the program, none of it has made any difference when it comes to the actual product on the field, which has just been, by Florida State standards, average now for 3, 4, 5 years in a row.
Tommy Tanks, if you're listening, man, come on. Fix this. Help us. Come home, man. Come home. We'll be waiting for you. That's a wrap on the show for Corey and Tom. I'm Aslan. Thank you so much for listening to Wake Up War Chant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.